Harry is seated between two groups in the opening scene of MobLand, attempting to help them come to an agreement. All they need to do to mend their long-standing conflict is to shake hands regardless of whether they agree or not. Conrad Harrigan advises Harry to choose the second alternative, which is to murder them all after considerable discussion and failure to reach a consensus on the parameters. Conrad's grandson is just getting started on the opposite side of town. He's obviously not meant to be out partying with Tommy Stevenson. Eddie, at least, is unfuzzed by the fact that they would either be skinned alive or murdered for this. They go inside a pub in Mayfair where Eddie stabs the other man, starting a little altercation. Kevin is aware that Eddie is lying when he says he didn't meet Tommy, so he calls Harry once more to inform him that there is yet another problem that has to be cleaned up. Harry must deal with his own family issues in the meanwhile, until his kids reminds him he seems to have forgotten about the fight he had with his wife, Jan, the night before. Jan appears to want them to get help from a therapist and work out their marital problems. However, he feels that they shouldn't include a third party in their connection. Nevertheless, he chooses to follow through on her plan and instructs her to schedule a therapy session. Simultaneously, Jan meets Alice, a lady with whom the new lady in Jan and Harry's life. The possibility of a gang fight arises when Tommy is nowhere to be found, but nobody wants to get involved. Harry is instructed to sit down and talk with Richie in order to establish a basis for cooperation. They decide to meet at Moody's boxing gym on neutral territory, and Richie gives Harry till midday the next day to locate his kid. Tommy will have no choice but to strike back if he doesn't come back by then. Harry feels that the time window is sufficient, but he is also aware that there is a strong possibility that Eddie hurt Tommy in some way. Because the youngster is very impetuous and doesn't consider the repercussions of his actions, it may be revealed by noon of the following day that he did something to Tommy. There is only one chance to stop this crisis in its track, and that is right now, since doing so would make it worse. Harry phones Conrad as soon as he leaves Moody's to ask him if they ought to murder Richie and his guys at this very minute, because when all factors are taken into account, the likelihood of a conflict is imminent. Since there isn't much time to make this choice, Conrad talks to Maud, who ultimately advises him against it. She makes two crucial points before they make any conclusion. They must first learn more about circumstances. Second, when they eventually track Richie Stevenson, would she and Conrad rather be present? Richie and his guys survive to see another day since Conrad completely agrees with her reasoning. But Aki is not as fortunate. Conrad was preparing a major move for his organization when his grandson was off causing mischief. Conrad focused on fentanyl, which is under Stevenson's control and is already a highly delicate subject for the two families before Tommy's vanishing enters into the equation, because the Harrigans already controlled a large portion of the market and needed to generate new revenue. His oldest son, Brendan, younger son, Kevin, daughter, Serafina, the family lawyer, O'Hara, and Conrad's closest companion, Archie, take part in the family meeting that Conrad calls to explore this economic opportunity. He makes an appearance earlier in the episode, meeting with Conrad to talk about his strategy. But by the time he arrives for the meeting, mistrust has already been established. According to Marv, Archie dealt with the Fire, a group engaged in the fentanyl trade, behind Conrad's back. When Conrad brings up the fentanyl intentions at the meeting, Archie cuts him off, stating that maybe this time it's off and that they should talk about this a bit more before acting. Conrad is sufficiently convinced of all the accusations made against the man by this time, and the meeting concludes when he shoots Archie in the chest. Because of the Marv's concern, Conrad kills his closest buddy, shocking everybody in the process. Harry de Souza struggles with the fallout from Eddie Harrigan's night out with Tommy Stevenson and a couple of his other friends. Alfie King and Mink Boshi dominated the first episode of MobLand. Conrad shows remorse for killing Archie in the master bedroom, but Maeve reassures him that he made the right decision. Conrad also questions whether they should proceed with fentanyl venture, and Maeve supports his choice. After getting rid of Archie's body, Harry goes home and remembers when he first saw Kevin in juvie. At the police station, Fisk is in custody. Fisk tries to acquire information about Aki from Harry. Kevin tells Harry that Eddie has been scooped up by Zosia and Kiko and is currently traveling to the court's wards. He suggests that they meet up there. Harry and O'Hara speculate about what Fisk truly knows when visiting Conrad's house. They question if Aki was a police informant under the alias Grass. They question Maeve's motivation for labeling Aki a traitor. They also wonder whether Conrad is controlling or losing control of things. Harry meets Kevin on his way out. Conrad brings up the subject of Archie being a police informant when Kevin tells him that Bella isn't arriving because she's busy negotiating with Antoine. Conrad doesn't really know why he killed Archie. Kevin understands, but before they can talk about it, Maeve enters. Harry visits Richie's headquarters to convince him that he won't deliver Tommy despite the fact that he has passed the deadline. Harry is threatened by Richie with harm to Gina, Harry's daughter, if he does not deliver Tommy to him. In another scene, Eddie is encouraged to be a brat who snorts cocaine by Maeve. Conrad responds that he is still the family's boss when she informs him in the second scene that Eddie is a real Harrigan and that she had a crucial role in shaping the Harrigans into what they are today. At the conclusion of MobLand Episode 2, Harry confronts Valjean and severely beats him until he tells Harry where Tommy is. When Valjean can take it no more, he leads Harry to a hidden area of the club where Tommy's mutilated body is stored in a box. Kevin's house is blown to smithereens in the opening explosion of MobLand's third episode. Afterwards, Harry gets a call from Kevin alerting him that Richie is approaching and his impending arrival. Now that he has located Tommy's body, Harry asks Kevin to meet him near the yard and to bring Eddie along. Although it's obvious that things are speeding up significantly, Maeve, who calls herself the White Queen, reiterates that she has always played this game. Amidst of all this, Harry arrives at a care facility where he promised his maid, Maria, that he would assist in finding her mother a comfortable location to spend her remaining years. He puts on the old bribery hat, nevertheless knowing that this will work because he is late for the arranged rendezvous. However, he sees an elderly guy at a table on his way out the door. He is known to Harry as a vicious jail officer who used to abuse him while he was incarcerated. Bella and Antoine have put up a covert camera to record the entire episode, but he chooses to keep it and create a copy for protection, thereby using blackmail to get Bella to comply. Returning to Harry, he and Kevin appear to be planning Valjean's murder, but they both use an advantageous ploy to subdue him and cooperate in order to rescue his family. In particular, providing them with critical time to develop a more efficient strategy. Eddie reappears to Conrad's palatial residence where he and Serafina are obviously maintaining their affection. Brendan is also present, and while they all talk about Eddie's antics, Maeve enters the room humming and complimenting Eddie. She also launches criticism at Serafina too. However, she fights back by reminding Maeve that she tied the knot into the family so she doesn't seem like she has a place to claim here. Just as things become heated, Conrad and Serafina leave. Although it appears that this all happened a long time ago and Serafina's biological mother is not mentioned, we do have proof of the romance here. Harry calls Richie and informs him of Tommy's condition and uses a simple automobile to trick the authorities. The plan is to make Valjean appear to be the fall guy while simultaneously getting the cops off their back. When the cops are sufficiently far away, Kevin, who had already exchanged automobiles with Harry, taunts them. But the police pull up Archie Hammond's remains from a coffin after receiving a confidential complaint about it. Richie is willing to torment Harry to the point of death when he gives him a bloodied Valjean in order to determine whether or not his made up narrative is true. Bella gives Harry a telephone call and takes him to her hotel room. She discloses the blackmail event and acknowledges that she has made a mistake. Harry gets the surveillance tip of Lord Pennock from Antoine to start MobLand episode 4. Jean de Souza, portrayed by Joan Froggatt, is awakened by Harry tapping on the window pane with a muttered sneer. She proceeds to open her front door. Mike Ben Jones is away. Karen informs Harry, claiming to be there to take care of Mike's kittens. He gets into the residence. Jan insists on knowing where he slept the previous night. He hasn't said anything since staying awake. The character Gina D'Souza, Teddy Allen, puts on her headsets furiously. Conrad tells Mauve Harrigan, Helen Mirren, that the police have located Archie and that he is Undertaker Pete, Jim Conway. Harry also informs Jan that Eddie Harrigan and Sonborn paid Valjean to dismember Tommy Stevenson's body after he stabbed him multiple times. According to him, Richie Stevenson detonated Kevin Harrigan's home and Conrad shot Archie dead in front of his loved ones. In another scene, Harry tells Jan that Conrad will learn everything she says in the counseling session. She informs him about getting a visit from Conrad. He swears. In another scene, Luke Marbley's character D.S. Ivan Fisk exhorts Alice to approach Conrad. She demands they go slowly. Harry chastises Jan for her actions in the end. She wonders whether the Harrigans are the Taliban and denies any involvement. She will wish he was, he adds, when Conrad leaves. Later, Harry tells Bella that it's over and hands her the memory stick. She calls Antoine and insists on sticking on her agreement. Harry takes her phone. When he leaves, he runs into Kevin and says he's been pleading with Bella to allow him back. Bella informs Antoine over the phone that she wishes to maintain their agreement. On her phone, she sees that Harry has called. There is a knock on the door, but she ignores it. She sees Kevin via the peephole and hangs up. Kevin requests a hug. In compliance, she pours him a scotch. He wants to know what she and Harry discussed. She says he asked her to suggest a present for John. She declines Kevin's invitation to accompany him to God's world. While Harry follows his instincts, Richie advises him to handle things with Valjean at the Monkey. Harry is given a rifle by Ollie Dunker, Arnold Ocean, who also displays a bruised and bleeding Valjean. Harry gives the rifle to Richie, relentlessly assaults Valjean with it and smashes a concrete block in the process. He requests the location of the restroom and demands that the mess be cleaned up. Richie thinks Valjean killed Tommy. Harry later tells Kevin. Calling him a genius, Kevin gives gratitude to God. The Harrigans have been invited to Tommy's burial by Richie, according to Harry. The fifth installment commences with Kevin and Harry talking about Richie's idea to invite the family to the vigil and memorial. When Brendan visits Serafina, he extends an invitation to supper. In an attempt to impress her, he displays some unpolished stone as well. He needs a professional to assist fund the transaction, but he has a client. But if they are to accomplish this, Serafina demands a cut of the money. Despite his best efforts, Brendan is unable to reach a compromise. Amidst of all this, Alice calls Jan and requests a meeting. Here, she learns about the burial and informs the cops about it. Marv has already begun intoxication as the funeral proceeds. While the wake is going on, Eddie sneaks upstairs. After searching through every detail and working as a coke vendor on the side, he finally finds himself at Harry's benevolence. Harry is stopped in the middle when he returns downstairs and sees Richie looking straight through Conrad. Kevin and Harry are fully anticipating Richie to discuss Tommy's passing. In the rendezvous, Richie claims that he is fully aware that Eddie killed Tommy and it was not Valjean at all. However, as long as Conrad makes sure Eddie will never be discovered, heard, or seen solo in the UK, Richie is prepared to forget the entire ordeal. Afterwards, we witness Marv recovering from her medically stimulated sleep. Thus, immediately after, she gives Paul instructions to put a bomb in Vron's car. And the next day, as soon as Vron starts the car, it causes a huge explosion like we have never seen. To win the fight against Richie, Maeve devises a scheme and puts out a hit on Brendan and Serafina back in the Cotswolds. Maeve is prepared to put Brendan's life at danger and eliminate Serafina. Without thinking, Richie falls for the ruse and gives the Mexican the order to pursue Serafina and Brendan in Antwerp. The ruby trade, which is taking place in a warehouse outside of Antwerp, appears to be proceeding without incident. Following Serafina's confirmation that the rubies are flawless, money is sent, and a deal is finalized. Nevertheless, semi-automatic mercenaries assault them. Brendan drenches his trousers. Although they are besieged, Serafina tries to flee. The scene cuts to Harry riding his stolen 1000cc superbike to the warehouse rendezvous. But before he can get there to save them, the screen goes black. Harry's failure to get to the storage facility on time becomes apparent at the beginning of MobLand's 7th episode. Brendan has been carried away along with Serafina by the criminals. Serafina and Brendan are still breathing, luckily, but they are both restrained in a deserted warehouse. Brendan is struggling to comprehend and losing control. The cartel's commander and capo, Jaime Lopez, wants to start working on them. Serafina offers twice what Richie is paying in an attempt to negotiate their way out of this. $5 million is put on the table. Jaime declines her offer, claiming that Conrad is no longer the leader he once was. Richie phones and arranges a conference call with Harrigans, forcing Kevin, Conrad, and Maeve to watch as they completely destroy Brendan's right shoulder with the lethal chainsaw. The place where Serafina and Brendan are is far from Harry and still unknown. Because he has no other choice, he phoned Donnie and instructed him to put him in touch with Kat McAllister, Janet McTeer. Harry asked Kate to get Jamie to stop the elimination of Serafina Harrigan since Brendan was already under the chainsaw. James received the message from Kat and turns off the chainsaw. This scene is straight from a horror movie. But it's too late for Harry since the chainsaw has already mutilated Brendan. The video conversation terminates on both sides, leaving just Serafina alive. What Kat said to Jaime to halt the execution is unknown to Harry and to us and to the Harrigans at Cotswold. However, he persuaded Kat to help him out. Asking Kat for such a significant favor at such crucial time is certain to cost Harry dearly. Kat, another power-hungry mafia member that MobLand has introduced to us, has the potential to take over the London underworld that the Stevensons and Harrigans are battling for.